Blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the wicked. Alleluia, alleluia, alleluia.
Okay, welcome to the show, Thea.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Christina.
So, why don't you start by just telling us a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you live, and what you're up to these days?
So I live in Denton, Texas, which is about 40 miles north of Dallas. I work as a nanny at this time. I studied sustainable horticulture and equine science in school, but I didn't finish that degree. I moved into working. And so, I've enjoyed nannying because it's flexible and I can do other things with my time. So I got into being more involved at church in an organizational sort of way. I started hosting some young adult things, get-togethers, retreats, and then, I wanted to do something bigger and with more people, and so that's taken up a lot of my time. Uh, work, church, organizing events. I went to a young adult retreat getaway in Poland a couple weeks ago, which was incredible. So that's pretty much my time.
Well, that sounds great. And we're going to get to the conference that you're putting together. We're going to end with that, right? That's very exciting. So stay for the end for that. But I wanted to start first with talking about homeschooling. And I've
Mm-hmm.
had, I'm in the process of interviewing different homeschool moms about their experience, but you were actually homeschooled yourself. So I thought it would be fun to ask you some questions as someone who has been homeschooled, what that was like for you. And so I thought
Yes.
maybe let's start with what was your favorite thing about being homeschooled?
I loved the flexibility, and I think that has transitioned into my work life. Flexibility is so important for me. And we had that growing up. My parents, the way they decided to raise us, I think I mentioned this on Mano's podcast, but my parents' motto growing up was seek ye first the kingdom of God and all else shall be added unto you. Right. And so for us, that meant that our life centered around the rhythm of the church. So the feast days, the fasts, vigils, liturgies, and we fit in school where it made sense. I mean, that doesn't mean we did it every day, but maybe there's a feast day and you have liturgy and you're at church until 2 or 3 p.m. and so you're not going to go home and do schoolwork, right?
Mm-hmm.
um or maybe we would work longer through the summer and take more time off at Pascha or something. And that level of flexibility really, really made an impression on me, because I think there was so much joy in life. Certain scheduling for me can sometimes feel like a chore, and I know it's inevitable, right? You have to make schedules and you have to commit your time places. Um, but I think it's really beautiful to be able to move with the rhythm of life. And when things, when opportunities arise, you have the flexibility to participate in those opportunities or to engage in them. And so that was really big for me with homeschooling. We would go to the monastery for the feast day, or, me and my sisters would fly to the monastery in Washington and stay there for several weeks. And we just were able to do these things because either we could do school wherever we were, or we could make up for it at some other time, or just kind of see how it all played out. So that was, I think that's probably what. Oh, and I think also being able to direct your attention where you have the most interest. So for me, that was
Mm-hmm.
literature. I loved, so we did we did homeschooling. It was like a blend of online schooling, but it was specifically for homeschoolers. So we took classes at Scholars Online and St. Raphael's Academy, which is the Orthodox online school.
Mhm.
And that's where I took my literature classes. And those made such a huge impact on me. I still think fondly of my first ever literature teacher, Presbytera Maria Koulianos. She was my first literature teacher. And for me, she just opened up this world of literary, everything literary, like how you can interpret things, how you can relate to things, how you can engage with the material. And I was kind of mind blown. Not that we read growing up all the
Mhm.
time, but she engaged it on a deeper level. And so for me, that's where I liked to direct a lot of my attention. My energy was the reading and the writing. And I think that, part of the beauty of homeschooling is that you can do that. You can go lighter on a certain subject and go heavier on another, because that's where your joy comes from, and that's where your interests are. So that was
Yeah.
important to me, and that's what made me love it so much.
Yeah, that's especially important for people that are more into specializing. My son
Hmm.
John, who he
Hmm.
was always very specialized in a few subjects
Yes.
that he really, really loved. And then there are
Hmm.
people who kind of love everything a little bit or like everything, and they're good at a wide range of things. But
Yeah.
for those kids who really hone in on something very young and stay with it, yeah, homeschooling gives that kind of freedom to do that. I loved what
Yes.
you said about flexibility too, because somewhere I heard many years ago that what makes something flexible is not its ability to bend, but its ability to return to its shape. Because if
Mm.
something was not able to return, it would just stay
Yeah.
floppy, right? And when
Yeah.
you think about homeschooling, like, you take a day off for the
Yeah.
feast day or for a monastery trip, or you just go, camping or something.
Hmm.
But then you return and you have that
Hmm.
stability, but it's not stability at the expense of stability isn't the first thing, that
Right.
we're going to do this no matter if everyone's crying or no matter if we need a
Right.
break. It's like there's
Yeah.
that flexibility where you can respond to the needs of your family.
Yes. Yes. And that was definitely what homeschooling was to us. Um, and I just really appreciated that. Even at the time,
Mhm.
even then, I was cognizant of how much I appreciated. I would have friends who had to go to school or something, and they wouldn't be able to come somewhere or do something because they had to go to school, or maybe they couldn't come in the evening because they had homework, and that wasn't really an issue for me, and I was very thankful for that. So.
Yeah. Do you think that you missed out on anything, or did you feel at the time that there were things you were missing out on as a homeschooled kid?
I was always sort of, I wouldn't say fascinated, that's too strong a word,
Mhm.
but intrigued by, or I just found the concept of having so many peers very attractive,
Mhm.
because I grew up at a mission, and it was us and a handful of other families, and you're just friends with whoever is there. And maybe
Mhm.
they're your age and maybe they're not. And growing up, most of my friends were older than me. So every now and then I would have a friend in my life who was my age. Maybe they came and then they went or something. But for most of my life, most of my friends were 4+ years older than me, my close friends. And and I really, at the time, it was really important to me. I really wanted a friend my age. Now, I don't mind it, and I actually appreciate the experience I had. Um, so I did feel like if I went to school, I would be surrounded with friends my age. However, to me, that was never worth it. Um, like
Okay, can you
sorry, go
yeah,
ahead.
please explain that more. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, like
Explain
I
that more
was very,
because
yeah.
I've noticed I get a lot of questions from parents, especially when their kids are when their girls are at tweens or very young teenagers, like
Mhm.
that they don't have any friends and they think this is a huge problem. And I actually tend to think it's a really great time to pull away from friend groups. And I'm
Yeah,
wondering, I'll explain why, but I want to hear what you
yeah.
think.
So there's a few things there. First of all, I did have a couple really good friends, and they were older than me. And
Hmm.
I struggled with the insecurity that maybe they were just being nice to me.
Oh,
Now, one or two of them, I was like, no, no, like they're my best friends. And then sometimes if I had others who I wasn't as close with, I would think maybe they're just being nice to me, they don't really want me around or whatever. Or even if I knew that wasn't true, it was an insecurity. Now, I think that, so for me, I was aware of that, but I also had friends. And so it wasn't like I was friendless. And having friends and just not having friends my age was not worth the trade off of losing the flexibility that we had. Because I was very much aware of all the things that we did that wouldn't have been possible if I were in school. Going to the monastery, because my dad is a priest, so
mhm.
weekends he's working. And so we could only travel during the week, right? Unless we went on vacation and took a couple weekends off. But during the week, if you're in school, you can't go anywhere, right? So homeschooling is really good for a priest family, especially, I think, because then you can time up when everybody is available appropriately. Um, but going back to having friends as a tween or a teen, my mom always really stressed the importance of being best friends with my siblings. Like that was always really, really important to her. And she always told me, like, I would
Mhm.
come to her and be like, I don't have any friends my age. My younger sister had a group of friends who were all her age. There were just a lot of girls her age at our church. And so I was always like, she has all these friends her age, and I don't have anyone my age, and blah, blah, blah. And she would, sympathize, but she would always remind me, like, your friends will come and they'll go, but your sisters are going to be with you forever. And you need to, they are your best friends. And
I'm sorry, I've literally said the same thing to my daughters for the
yeah,
same reason,
yeah.
and it's
And
so
she,
important. The
yes,
friends come and go, but your
they do.
your family has to be first and has to be that first
Yeah,
relationship, and
yes.
what I noticed with the young ladies, even and all of our bigger friend circle were very good kids. They weren't bad kids, but
Yeah.
even being Christians and homeschooling, they still fell prey to those
Oh,
insecurities you were
absolutely.
talking about that just it was
Absolutely.
like their way of dealing with it was to turn on their best friend and all of a sudden become really
Yes.
nasty. It's a
Yes, I
widespread
saw that
problem.
happen too.
Yeah, it's really, really hard when all of a sudden, people are kind of maturing at different rates. And
Hmm.
so you can be at the same spot playing ponies when you're little, and then all of a sudden they're acting like a teenager and you're
Yeah.
still stuck in this, childlike way of being. And it's very difficult. I've just watched it so
Yes.
many times, but um, your family will always love you and be that
Hmm.
grounding, where it can help
Yeah.
with those insecurities.
And, I would say that also, um, what my mother did is she didn't just tell us that, she would also tell us never to leave each other out. So it was
Mhm.
always really important to her that if we were with one of our friends, we were always including our siblings in that we weren't excluding our siblings, which is a temptation, I
Mhm.
think, for siblings because, well, at least for me, I always wanted to have a best friend who wasn't friends with my sister. Like they were all mine, you know? And now I'm at a place where I'm like, if my friend doesn't like my sister, you can leave. Because me and her are like this, and you and me, we don't need to be friends. And if you don't like her, I'm sorry, you're gonna have
Mhm.
to go. But at the time, I
Yeah.
was just really wanted someone who was my best friend, and but my mom always, she was always very like, you're including your siblings, don't kick them out of your games, whatever it is. And then she also was
Mhm.
very intentional about how much time we spent with friends. And that sounds, I think that can sound in our current society, it can sound wrong, but she was just very like, how much time were we spending outside of the home, right? Because once we're outside of the home, that's someone
Mhm.
else's influence, you know? And like you said, different people are at different stages of development, and maybe they're going through something that you don't want influencing your
Mm-hmm.
child to go through or whatever. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so we did hang out with our friends. We did go and do things, but it was very intentional. It wasn't just like whenever and wherever and however and whoever.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm completely on the same page, because what I see is there's the people have the thought that, of course, your daughter needs lots and lots of friends. Like, more friends are better. And I think what I was trying to express, and you said it much better, is in those years, I think it's really wise to pull back and only allow really healthy friendships. And if you're having, and especially if you have siblings at home that you're close with,
Yes.
putting time into those relationships. And then it's
Yes.
okay to, have friends over or see them a couple
Yeah.
times a week. But I think people
Yes.
get the idea that you need to have 20 friends and spend
Right.
2 hours a day with them or all day with
Right.
them at school and stuff. And I don't think that's a good, especially at that exact moment in a child's life. I actually
Yeah.
don't think that's a good thing.
Well, and this comes back to going to school versus the homeschooling, is that with me wanting friends my age at the time, I did want that. But now I'm so thankful that I actually had the influence of so many people of so many different ages, because I think
Hmm.
that made me more socially aware. Like, I wasn't in my age clique, where I'm
Right.
just totally zoned in on my age group and what we're talking about and what we're doing in our lives. I'm very aware of someone who's going through college, or someone who's had kids, or someone who's had grandchildren, or so, all these different stages of life you're aware of. And um, I think it forms you differently. And I'm not saying kids who don't go to school don't get this social formation. I'm
Hmm.
just thankful for my development that I had exposure to all these different age groups, because I think I might not have had that in school as much.
Right.
Um,
Are you
and
familiar with Andrew Pudwa of the IEW? It's kind of
I
a
don't think
well-known
I am.
homeschool curriculum.
Okay, I
But
don't think.
Andrew, yeah, he's a traditional Catholic guy, and he has a writing program that he has been doing for many, many years. But one of the things he does on the side is teach parents and other educators how to be better at educating children. And he has said many times that when you have children together in single age groups, large
Mhm,
group of 13-year-olds versus
mhm.
multi age groups, that the group dynamics are very different. When everyone
I've
is the
seen it.
same age, everybody sinks down, right? Their vocabulary,
Yeah.
their choices, you know.
No, I've
Um,
seen it. Yeah.
yeah, and when you have a mixed age, it's almost like the older kids want to play adult and be more responsible, and then the younger
Yeah.
kids are actually looking up to older kids and wanting to do better. So it's a
Yeah.
really healthy thing for children to participate in these multi-age groups.
Yeah, I agree. Well, and I was best friends with my older sister, who's 2 years older than me, and our best friend was 1 year older than her. And her older siblings were young adults when we were kids. And so she was kind of like our like we would hang out with the young adults because she was siblings, and then there was my sister, and then there was me. And you learn really fast that, like, if you're annoying, people don't want you around, And so you have to level up
Right.
a little. That doesn't mean your childhood is being stolen from you. It's just like when you're around more mature people, you have to level up.
Which is the point of, being a teenager, actually. It's actually
Yes.
learning to mature
Yeah.
and to not stay in some kind of perpetual teenage,
Yes.
adolescence, right? Right. It's
Mhm.
it's all about preparing to be an adult.
Yes, absolutely.
So I had another question about homeschooling, but just given what we've just talked about, I want to talk about responsibility, because
Mhm.
I think this goes along in some of the things we're talking about right now. And I've heard you talk about the need for people to be responsible and within the church and take some accountability in the life of the church. And I'm wondering, first of all, if you could just elaborate on that.
Mhm. Yes. So I mean, when you attend a church, it's one thing. But when you're sacrificing for the church, I remember seeing this, it was like um, it was like a psychological suggestion for how to make friends. That sounds really weird. It was like I can't think of the word, like a hint, a tip. It was a tip.
Okay.
I don't know why I can't think of that word. Yes. So the tip was, ask someone to do a favor for you. Just a small one. Like if someone's going to get themselves some water or a drink or something, say, oh, could you grab me something while you're over there? And this is like when you first meet them, right? This is not after 2 weeks of friendship. This is like you just met them. Oh, could you grab me, or could you grab the door for me? And it's not like you're trying to manipulate them, but the kind of psychological factor was that when you ask someone to do a favor for you, it puts them more at ease, because it's kind of this concept of being in debt to someone. And it's not like, so they perform a favor for you and now you're in debt to them. And that's not how they're thinking of it, but it puts them at ease because they've done something for you. And it's not like they're going to call in the debt, but there's that kind of reciprocation, right? Like we do things for each other, and you started that. You started that process of we do things for each other. And even though it's hard to ask someone you just met to do something for you, it's like it's a small favor, that somehow it puts them at ease. And I'm sure there's like a whole, psychological study or whatever on why and how. But I just remember reading that and being very intrigued by that. But I think that plays into this sense of participation and sense of belonging, right? Because when someone feels comfortable to ask you to help them, you have this sense of purpose and belonging. And I think when you spend your time and your energy contributing in a meaningful way to your parish life or to the people in your parish, that increases that sense of I belong here. I contribute in this meaningful way. I am making a difference. And so whether that means you're tithing or you're volunteering to help clean the church, or you're volunteering to help with the gardening, or you're bringing food, that act of sacrifice, I think it when you fight for something, you care about it, right? Like if someone hands you something for free, you're just like, oh, that's cool. If you have to pay $50 for that thing, you're going to take a lot better care of that thing, right? It's that investment. And I know this is the terms I'm using make it sound maybe corporate or something, but it's just that kind of sense of you sacrifice for something and you want to preserve that thing and make things better. And so I think it's very
you're right on.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No,
We do have a
you're
lag
good.
here. Forgive me. But yeah, it's a, like you said, investment, or if something is just given to you, and I've totally seen this as I've worked for the church, we want to be kind and kind of give for free, but people have to have like a little bit of buy-in. You can't just
Yeah.
always offer things, offer, because they don't respect it. They don't, they take it for
Yes.
granted, right? They
Yeah.
have to participate in whatever the program is, even if it's a
Yes.
very small thing, like you're saying.
Yeah, just like bringing food on Sunday, or
Mhm.
whatever that thing is. Maybe you're not in a place financially where you can tithe or whatever it is. No, just I think that even if it's something small, maybe you don't have all the cash flow to be tithing. That's between you and your priest in what capacity tithing, but you can still, and maybe you don't have, maybe if you're a college student and you really don't have the money to bring groceries, although I think for a lot of people they're more capable than they think they are. Like a bag of chips, it's a couple dollars. Like you probably spent $6 on a coffee this week, you know? And that's not everyone's story. Some people's story is genuinely like they have no money, right? They don't even have money for their own groceries or something. So I'm not saying that's everyone, but I think a lot of people say, you know, I just don't have the money. I have so many expenses. But is one of your expenses like a couple coffees every week to study at the coffee shop? Like, I get it. I do that too. But I think it's worth some self-reflection. But regardless, wherever you are at, there are ways to participate with your time, with your talents. I'm sure you have a skill set that is useful. And it makes you feel more connected to a place, you know, like when you've contributed. And then you really care about the well-being of that place and the people there. So it's not even like, you know, you need to be donating $300 a month or something. It's just ways in which you can offer what you have.
Right.
Whatever
Yeah,
that
not
is.
about the amount of time or money, but offering what you have, whether even if
Yeah,
it's the 2 mites. Okay,
exactly.
so, I know you're very young, you're the age of some of my kids. Um, so this is a pretty mature take for, a young person because there's a lot of adults, unfortunately, who never learned this, and I do think it's a learned thing. So I wanna ask, how did your parents teach you responsibility in the home?
Mm. You know, that's a great question. Um, I don't remember. I think that a huge part of this, to be honest, is growing up in a mission. I think that was a huge part of it, actually, is seeing what a difference people's contributions make, you know? And my mom, being the matushka, if people aren't doing things, she's the one doing it, right?
Mm,
If nobody's cleaning, she's the one there till 10 p.m. cleaning. If nobody is decorating the church, she's the one decorating the church for Pascha, you know?
mhm,
And I think that exposure alone, that because it's so easy to live in your bubble and just show up and things are already done. You leave and you come back and things are clean, and I don't know who's doing them or how it's getting done, but it's being done, so clearly I'm not needed, right? Because you're not there behind the scenes, seeing what it takes for that to get accomplished, seeing that one or two people who had to stay hours after everyone else went home to clean up.
mhm.
Or decorate or whatever it is. And that's another thing, like just help decorate your church for a feast day, you know? Like it's easy to think there's so many people that are already like they don't need my help, but maybe there
There's never
aren't.
enough people.
There's
There's never
not,
enough people for these jobs.
you know? And maybe you're just the person who's there and then you run to the store and get a snack for everybody.
Mhm.
And that's your blessing, you know? Um so I
We
think that go ahead. Yeah.
No, sorry, you were just reminding me of the years we spent in a mission that's now not a mission anymore, but when we got there was maybe 20 people that would show up every Sunday, and we were in a little house. The
Yeah.
kitchen was, like, the altar was kind of opposite the kitchen,
Yeah.
and so the joke was if you got there too late, you had to stand in front of the hot water heater. Like, literally, it's just right here because,
Yeah.
we were so crammed in this little
Yes.
tiny, living room of an old house.
Mhm.
Yeah, as soon as we arrived, they were like, "Well, do you sing in the choir? Do you sing? Do you do this? Do you that?"
Yeah.
And they were
Yeah.
so, like, joyful that, we knew how to do things.
Yeah.
And immediately we just stepped into a bunch of things we were doing for the church, and we had come from Ben Lomond, which I think maybe you're familiar with, where it was a very developed parish where,
Mhm.
there were different groups of people that were kind of already assigned things, whether it was the people who put on the weddings or the people who cleaned up or the people that did, 30 or 40 people in the choir, like
Yes.
very on top of having chanters and
Yeah.
there were all these different ways you could serve, but they were very
Mhm.
specialized and already set
Mhm.
up. And when you're in a mission, you just have to like you know, be willing to do whatever needs to be done because there's
Yeah.
nobody coming to help.
No.
There's no cavalry.
No.
It's
No.
just the people that show up.
It's you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that exposure, seeing that cause and effect because I'm
Mhm.
there and I'm seeing the aftermath and I'm seeing who's there decorating the church, and I'm seeing who's cleaning up and how long it takes them. And I think that seeing that, and then also tying into having a larger parish, I think it's almost harder because it's so, when there's a huge, highly functioning parish, everything seems to be running smoothly. Everybody seems to have their place, and it's so easy to come in on Sunday and chat and eat and go home, right? And then where do you fit in? How do you? Well, they already have cooks, and they already have cleaners, and they already have a choir, and so now, like, our parish is at about 250 to 300 people now, and it's a different set of challenges. When it's 10 of you, everything needs to be done. When there's 250 of you and there are people who are already completing tasks, I think it's just much easier to not see the things that need to be done and to kind of live in a sort of state of blissful ignorance.
So what should you do if you're in a parish like that? Because I was about to ask, like, what can a parish do to let people know? But let's turn it around. Let's say, what can people do if you're in a bigger, more established parish and it's the need isn't so obvious? Because I'm sure there's still needs. So what should they do? How can they find that?
Well, personally, I think for starters, offering to help. You see people doing things, can I help you? But I think that's helpful, like short term, like maybe you help them complete a task, but sometimes that task is already being carried out by the people who know how to do it, and that's not where you're needed. I think being very intentional with how you offer, like not in the moment, offer in a busy moment. But aside from that, you go to, maybe it's the priest, maybe it's the matrushka, maybe it's someone you see is in charge of something, and say, I have this time or this talent, and I would really like a way to serve. Is there a place for me? It's not just like you asked or offered because you were polite, right? Which is also good. But you're actually saying, this is intentional, and this is something that I really want and is meaningful to me. Because it's easy to tell someone, no, I've got this under control. Like, thank you so much. Like I'm doing something and someone offers to help and I'm almost done, or really only needs one person. And so I'm like, no, thank you so much. That's okay. And I think that's another thing on a side tangent. Let people help, maybe you do have it under control. Maybe it is more efficient if you do it, but you are declining someone else the blessing of serving if you think that that they can't, that you need to be the one to do it. And sometimes you are the one who needs to do it, right? But sometimes it's like, I don't mean for this to sound condescending, but it's like, if you have a 4-year-old and they want to help you make the banana bread, it's going to take a really long time and it's going to be really messy. And I say this, I bake wedding cakes. I'm a baker. I don't like people helping me bake. I mean, like, you can wash the dishes or you can like help me chop the fruit or something like that. But I don't like really someone getting involved because it gets messy and it takes, especially little children, it takes more work for me to involve like a little child in a job I can do very efficiently on my own, because I want to get something done. But how are they supposed to learn how to do it if you don't give them the chance?
100%.
And maybe you just missed out on someone who is very good in a certain area, very talented, or could learn very quickly and be a huge asset. But because you thought, I'm just going to do this myself real quickly, they miss out on the blessing, you miss out on the blessing, you miss out on maybe the skill set they had to offer. And then they aren't involved, and maybe they're
and they
only
might not ask again.
Exactly.
Yes.
Maybe they're only going to ask once. And they're like, well, I asked and they didn't seem to want me there. So like, I'm not going to keep throwing myself at them. There are people out there who will ask you again and again and again, do you need help? Do you need help? Do you need help? And there are people who are going to ask once and then they're done. And so I think it's important on both ends. Be very intentional about asking, or maybe you see I think this is a little harder. If you see a place where something is needed, maybe offer something like, I see this could use a little work, but that's a little more like maybe there's a reason that that thing is that way.
Right.
So,
Always have to
like
move gingerly, yeah, because the people that
gingerly,
came before you
melody,
set things up for a reason. Yeah, yeah.
right. Like you don't just insert yourself and like, I'm just going to do it because nobody's doing it. It's like, well, maybe they're not doing it for a reason. But
Right.
maybe you see something, you're like, does this need to be addressed? And can I be of service? So I
I
think
love
it
that
goes.
you yeah, forgive me.
No, it's
But
okay.
I
I
love
know.
that you kept using the phrase, the blessing, like then you get the blessing and stuff, because they say the same thing here at the monastery whenever you do a
Mm-hmm.
job, like
Yeah.
for them, it's a blessing for you. And so
Yeah.
I'll tell you a funny story. My husband was, I don't know, he had to like, his job that day was like to move all this gravel for the
Mm-hmm.
sisters. And then he realized like they had like a backhoe or something like 10
Yeah.
feet away. That was like, why aren't we just using the bulldozer
Yeah.
here to pick this up? And she's like, well, then the bulldozer would get the blessing.
Yes.
So,
I love it
it's
so
good for
much.
us to work for God, because ultimately
Yes.
that's what we're doing. We're working for
Yes.
Christ. Every little thing, whether you're scrubbing the toilet or,
Absolutely.
decorating with flowers or
Yeah.
sewing vestments, whatever it is,
Yeah.
it's all for God. And I would
Yes.
just add too that, I try to always instill in my kids, like, as coffee hours winding down and people are, starting to leave, like if you notice that, like, you don't want the people that cleaned up that fed everybody to also have to clean up. Like
Right.
if you start noticing someone is cleaning, you get up and
Mm-hmm.
you start folding chairs and putting things
Mm-hmm.
away and can I wipe the
Mm-hmm.
table down, right? You just have
Yep.
to be a little more alert about what's going on around you and,
Yes.
you know,
Awareness, like
yeah,
awareness of your surroundings. And also like maybe you do have to leave early and you have to dash, but before you leave, you can clean your bowl and your cup and your plate and you can put your chair away and you can wipe your spot. It's like, well, everyone was still
right,
eating. Yeah, but just do your part. Like, and if everybody did their
right,
part, it would all be done, right? And I get it. There's, I don't do that all the time. I'm like, sometimes I have to go. And so we have cleaning teams at our church. So we have groups of families that clean each weekend. And then food is potluck. So everyone brings food.
oh,
And then
nice,
there are groups of families that clean up, right? So that helps with as far as like whose responsibility it is. But still, it might not be your week, but maybe you just, you see a piece of trash and you throw it away, right?
right, yeah,
There's
that's
there's a
ownership.
lot of ways, and it might feel small, but like you still get the blessing, because
Mhm.
God sees every single bit, you know, like
Yeah,
I remember being at the monastery, and I think I'm telling this story right. Okay, this is how I remember it, and you know, you're doing things and the nuns walk by and they just make like they drop little pearls of wisdom. I was telling this to Mano, just casually dropping little
mhm,
pearls of wisdom. And we were cleaning up for the feast day. And I remember one of the nuns saying that we will be held accountable for our indifference. Like you see trash on the ground of the
mhm,
monastery and you don't care. And
mhm,
you're going to be held accountable for your indifference to God's place, right? It's not like you threw the trash on the ground, but you didn't care that there was trash and you didn't just pick it up and put it in your pocket or pick it up and throw it away, whatever it is, right? And that stuck with me. I can't see trash anywhere without thinking of that.
You're speaking my language. Someone told us the same thing many years ago, and it's like, it says a lot if you're someone that will walk by that trash on the ground, like, at the church specifically, and not pick it up.
Yeah, and I think people just they don't it doesn't even occur to them
Mhm,
because it's trash is everywhere and
right,
and like it didn't really well okay I was aware of it because that's how my dad is. He always picks up trash that he sees, especially on the church grounds, and he was always very conscientious about that, and so I was aware of it. But then when the nuns said it in that way, like you're going to be held accountable, it's not just, oh, you're
mhm.
doing a nice thing, it's like you're accountable for not caring, you know.
Ye Yeah, that's a different way to talk about it, because you could think, "I'm such a nice person, I'm gonna pick up this
Right.
trash," but it's like, no, actually,
Right.
that's
It's
you're
actually
accountable
that's
for
the
it.
bare minimum.
It's bare minimum. Yeah.
you know?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
I think a big thing, just returning to offering, is it's really easy to deny people the opportunity to express their love and to receive those blessings. And I think we have to, or you feel bad. Like, I am so busy doing this and the bathroom really needs to be cleaned. I'm not going to ask someone to clean the church bathroom. Like, my gosh, it's like, well, they come here too and they make the bathroom dirty too. And actually, you're denying them the opportunity to have that blessing, and you're denying them or they offer, right? They offer and you say, no,
Mhm.
you do not need to clean the bathroom. I'll clean the bathroom. It's disgusting. It's like, they just tried to offer your love and you denied it.
Yeah, very
So,
true. And when you go
yeah,
to the bathroom, you can just, you know, when you're
totally.
done, take a
Yeah.
little towel and wipe the counter. Just
Wipe the sink off, or you see that piece of toilet paper on the floor that the kid dropped, and you just
yeah.
pick it up and put it in the trash. Make it a little cleaner than when
Mhm.
you walked in, you know? Um,
Absolutely.
So I think there are so many small ways that we can participate. It's not like 5 hours a week. It's like a
Right.
little movement that just makes things a little better than when you got there.
And it could be done in a hidden way. There was this really
Totally.
beautiful story about they were um, building a church. I think this was hundreds of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And they were, one of the men working on it had carved a little bird
Mm-hmm.
into the wood in a place
Mm-hmm.
where no one would ever see it, like, it was gonna be totally covered up, and they were like, "Why are
Mm-hmm.
you doing that? No one's ever gonna see." And he's like, "Well, God will see, you know? God will
Yeah.
see this little hidden thing." So, it doesn't have to
Mm-hmm.
be showy. It can just be like no one
No,
ever knows that you just go and do this thing.
no, they don't
Um,
have to know, and that's okay. Like, it's between you and God. And there are going to be times when you're going to do something and people are going to thank you for it, you know? Right? Like, it's going
and
to
say,
happen.
"Thank God."
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna
Yeah,
happen. Um, that doesn't mean you don't get the blessing just because they thanked you, right? Like,
yeah.
um, but there are ways to also participate without making a show of it.
For the Lord knows the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked will perish. Alleluia, alleluia, alleluia.
So, I wanted to ask you about, is there a struggle that you think the young people today have that you wish the older people understood better?
Mm.
Or just a struggle that you think
Yeah.
they have?
I think it can be really discouraging as a young person growing up with so many technological developments that seem to very much not bode well for the future. I think that can cause a lot of despair. And I do think maybe older people are aware of it, but also they didn't grow up with it. Like, for example, like the AI usage in like colleges and stuff, right? Or not, like, maybe our professors in college aren't like, they don't care as much. I know it depends on the person, right? But like, the standard is
Mhm.
being constantly lowered. And maybe by the time I get to college, my professor doesn't give me the education that my mother's professor gave her, right? Because their standards are lower, they don't care as much. There's more AI usage or whatever. And I think there's a lot of discouragement. Um, like, how are we going to be as at least sometimes I think to myself, like, how are we going to be as developed and well-rounded as some of our parents or grandparents when we're not facing the same challenges, or we're not um, being developed in that way? Does that make sense?
It
Like,
does. I've thought a lot
if you
about this. Yeah.
yeah, if you have, and I'm using the school as an example, if you have a professor who's really hard and really cares, and maybe you're writing your essay by hand, that's developing skills that no professor is going to expect for you to develop today.
Mhm.
And most of us are not going to develop those skills on our own unless we're forced to, because we have other, if that's what's expected of you, you'll do it. But like, if it's not, you're going to spend your time in other ways. I'm not going to write this essay by hand, and they wouldn't accept it if it were written by hand anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a kind of a singular example of how I think despair is played out in other areas as well, and discouragement. There are so many, there's so much information out there. And, maybe for my grandparents, it was like they got married. They met when they were like 13. They got married when they were 17. It was, I don't mean to like reduce it to something that's very basic and simple, but now it's like you can travel the world and marry someone from any country you want, or you can live anywhere in the world that you want, or you can get a job anywhere that you want. It's like analysis paralysis. It's overwhelming. It's like, well, do I want to marry a Serbian or a Greek or a Russian or an American, and maybe that's not the question. Maybe it's something else, but there's so much out there. And it's like, what do I do with all of this opportunity and all of this information? It really complicates things, to be honest.
It does. It does. It's the difference in teaching art to children. There's, two ways you could go about it. You can give them a piece of paper and a box of crayons, say, draw whatever you want to draw. And it's the same thing. A lot of kids will kind of freeze and not know how to begin. Or you can take them step by step. I'm going to teach you how to draw a butterfly. Yes. And you go draw a little circle for the head, they follow along. And eventually when they do that a bunch of times, then they can improvise.
They get creative.
Yes.
They get creative. They add
but you have to have that constraint.
Yes. And those kind of limitations give us, like, we create within limitations, right? We're not God. We don't have limitless creation, right? We have confines and structure, and within that we create, right? And as those confines are broken down, well, now you don't just have to marry someone from your hometown. You can marry someone from a different city. Oh, now you can marry someone across the country. Now you can marry someone across the world. And I'm using that as an example just because it's like each different person you married from a different country or state or place, that is a totally different life you will live. And that's scary. Like, and you don't know what that life is either. You can guess, like, if you marry someone whose family and everyone lives in Serbia, you may move to Serbia and live the rest of your life in Serbia as an American. And that's a hugely different life than marrying someone in your hometown where you want to live for the rest of your life. And I think that breaking down of certain limitations, I mean, in some ways that's cool. There are amazing marriages that take place because of that. But it's also kind of scary and overwhelming and stressful, And I know that sounds like whiny, like that's what you're stressed about, but that's kind of like, it's like a small example of, I think, what's happening on a larger scale in so many different areas.
Because it's not just about getting married. It's also about your education and your career and where am I going to live? And
where do you go to church? Who do you confess to? Like, you get to choose all of these things about your life. It's not just wherever you are, and I think that can cause a lot of discontent because the grass is always greener. And now suddenly you're able to go to that greener grass, but then you get there and you realize actually it's just the same thing with different struggles. Yeah. And I think it causes this unrest and this discontent. Like, do I want to live in a different country? Like, right? Like, I could. And I think it's harder. I think you can choose, pray about it, right? You try to discern God's will in your life and walk in that direction. Does that mean you have to stay put? No. Does that mean you have to live where you were born for the rest of your life? No. But at some point you have to dig some roots. And at some point you have to participate. You can't I don't like the people at my church and they annoy me so much. And I don't like what my spiritual father tells me to do. So I'm going to pick a different parish and a different city and a different spiritual father. It's like, stop. You have to bloom where you're planted, and maybe you get transplanted. That happens, but then you have to bloom.
Yeah, I think we were definitely, excuse me, we were definitely bloom where you're planted people, and we ended up in this
Yeah,
mission for a really long time, even though there were struggles there. But it
absolutely.
became very obvious when God was calling us to somewhere else.
Yeah,
It was very obvious in our
exactly.
life. So,
Right.
yeah,
Like
he,
the way will be opened, or maybe you start
mhm,
walking that path and the door is closed and you accept that. Or you
right.
start walking that path and the way is cleared and you're like, okay, maybe this is where God's calling me. But I think this plays into, like what I was saying about um, the standard constantly being lowered, you know, then you have young adults who think nothing is expected of them, maybe, which
Right.
goes back to responsibility and participating in the church, right? And I don't think that's everyone, but I think that is a temptation to think that nothing is expected of you, or that you don't have to contribute in some way, or you don't have to participate in some way, or maybe, like we're a college town, and so we have a lot of young people who come in for a semester or 2 semesters or a couple of years and then leave, right? Does that mean you don't participate just because it's your temporary parish or like your school year parish? No, like you participate where you're at and you make things better wherever you're at. um I do think there's like an
Right.
analysis paralysis.
Yeah, and I have a lot of compassion for the young people
Yeah.
because that's a reaction to the world that they grew up in, and they did not create the
Yeah.
world they're growing up in. It was like,
No.
it's kind of on us adults and people older. And, I don't know if you ever read that book by a couple of homeschool Protestant guys, Do Hard Things, like against the
Mm,
rebelling against the low expectations of teenagers.
I haven't
It
read
was a
it.
Protestant book. It was,
Yeah.
yeah, it was okay. But one thing they do is they tell a story about, they were talking about how this bar of responsibility has been lowered. And I think this was during the War of 1812.
Mm,
This little 12-year-old was like on a warship, right, as a, like
the
third or
Captain
fourth in
Player.
command or something. And they end up capturing a British
Yeah.
vessel. And
Yeah.
he is tasked with bringing that vessel back to, I think it was Boston Harbor or something. And he did it.
Yeah.
We're like, okay, this was a 12-year-old. And now, of course, I'm not for children in war. I want to
Of
say that,
course.
right? It's a different time.
Of course.
But
Yes.
he didn't just wake up one day and decide
Yeah.
to like sail a ship home, right? He had
Yes.
been given responsibility throughout his life that
Yes.
he fulfilled. And so he
Mhm.
was given more responsibility that always has to grow. And I'm
Yes.
sorry, but we have teenagers that won't drive to the store and buy eggs, right? Like that
Yeah.
freaks them out. And again, I don't blame them because that is the world that they've grown up in.
Right.
But you can do really great things as a young person. It's such an amazing time of your life because you have so much
Yeah.
time. You have so
Yes.
much energy, like you
Yes.
could be doing so much. And it actually almost
Yes.
doesn't matter what you do, just do something. Just pick a
Yeah, do
direction and start
something. It's
walking.
okay. Like,
Yeah.
you don't need to know the end of the story right now. You don't even
Yeah.
need to know, are you gonna be able to do this for the next 5 years? But, like, something needs to be done right now and do that thing right now. And then maybe you can change gears, you can switch, whatever, but, like,
Mhm.
do something right now, because as long as you sit there and do nothing, time is ticking. And, it's like being paralyzed by making a phone call. I know I'm calling a lot of people out by saying that.
It's not your fault, guys. I'm sorry, but yeah, go ahead,
But,
Dan.
you know, no one is going to shoot you through the phone. Like, you are not going to die. Like, the worst thing that happens may be, I mean, depending on the stakes of the phone call, but like, you can't order pizza over the phone. Like, they don't actually care at all. Like, they won't even, the person on the other, there's no stakes here. There's no stakes here. And um and I get it, because I've had to make a lot of phone calls to strangers, I was part of planning. I am part of planning our. We have an annual fundraiser gala at our church, and I am in charge of getting items, asking people for free things, asking strangers to give me free things. And that's kind of awkward to call someone and be like, I know you don't know me or care, but would you give me some free stuff? Like, that is several anxieties in one. Calling a stranger, asking them for a big favor, and risking sounding or looking stupid. And I still get uncomfortable when I make the phone call. But the more you do it, the more you realize it's exposure therapy. The more you do it, the more you realize, okay, I'm not going to die. And I've had some awkward conversations. I've sounded stupid. One time I called a business and went to voicemail, and I'm sitting there leaving a message, and the funniest person in my entire life is my little sister Zoe, and I'm leaving a message and she starts giggling and I start laughing. And I'm leaving a message, and I don't know. Okay, call me an idiot. I don't know how to delete a message that you've left. I know you can, right? You can stop the recording and delete it. I don't know how to do that. So I'm laughing as I'm trying to leave a professional message. I'm like cracking up. And then, like, what do you say? Because you know this person on the other end is going to be listening to the message, and then you're just listening to you, and then you're, what are you laughing at? And then I think I apologized and said something, or oh no, it was like I sneezed, but I held it in, and my sister laughed at me, and then I started laughing, and I hung up from that. I think I maybe was like, I'm on the message again. I'm not even talking to a person. I'm recording a message, and I'm like, I'm so sorry, I sneezed, and my sister thought it was funny. It's something stupid, right? And then I'm like, probably never going to hear from them again, you know? And I didn't. They never called me back. It was kind of embarrassing, but
okay.
it happens, and that's real people. That's not, well, they know for sure that wasn't a spam call or a recorded message because, yeah,
And
I
people
get
need
it.
to practice on the things that don't matter. Because the
Yes,
more
the
you
things that
practice
are
on the,
low
like if you've made
stakes.
a 1,000 phone calls that don't matter, you're actually
Yes,
ready for the one that does, or more ready.
exactly,
And if you wait
exactly.
until you have to make a phone call, well,
Yes,
that's going to be really difficult. I'm
yes,
a big
and
believer that children need to fail
yes,
at the lower level. So we would always make our kids, like at the grocery store, we'd say,
yes,
oh, I forgot something. I need you to go get a gallon of milk. Here's the money. You're going to go through
yeah,
the line and pay for it. And the look of panic on their little,
yes,
fourth grade
yes,
faces, they're like, what?
right.
No, you can do
What?
this. Okay.
No,
Bye. We'll be
I remember
outside at the car.
walking into a grocery store to run in and grab something, and I get the thing and I go to the checkout. I'm like looking around the aisle, and I see there's a man cashier and a woman cashier. And like the woman cashier walked away. And I was like, and I'm like, 10 or something. And I'm like, mm. And I was paralyzed. I was like, I can't do it. I can't purchase this item like every other human being is doing in this grocery store, right? And I remember having that internal battle, like, nothing's going to happen. Just go do it. Like, who cares? But you're paralyzed with that fear. And then you have to choose to do it anyway. You know?
And
You
then
have
you
to,
feel so proud of yourself. That's what I always
yeah,
saw in my kids. Like,
yeah.
then they were like so proud that they could go in and buy stuff, without their mom. It's like, rock
And
on.
it, it
You're
has these
awesome.
effects in other parts of your life. It's not just like,
Yeah,
oh, you get comfortable buying the milk at the grocery store.
exactly.
It becomes, you're able to have a conversation with a stranger, or you're able to tell someone a story, or you're able to make connections, or bigger things, like more important things. You're able to get a really good job or something, right? Like, these little interactions, they do affect, you know, the rest of your life.
Absolutely. So
So
speaking to the young people, you can do this, guys. You can start
yeah,
small, and you're
yeah,
gonna grow in confidence and competence.
yeah.
And is there something they could do today, maybe?
Yeah, like call
Moving on to
call a
our final
call a
topic of
person. Yeah.
call a
If you don't
person.
like phone calls, call an old friend, or your grandma or whoever. You're probably comfortable talking to your grandma, but like, you don't want to get on the phone, and maybe I know it's a bigger stake if it's someone right? So maybe find an online business and have an inquiry and just call them and ask them a question. Find a business online and you have a question about a product. You don't even have to want to buy that product, but call them and say, yeah, I just have a question about this product, like whatever, whatever, whatever. And talk to them and then hang up. Like if phone calls is something that's really hard for you, do that. If talking to new people is really hard for you, just have an exchange with a stranger at the grocery store or like at the cashier, right? Just say, how is your day going? Like maybe you want to just get through the line as quickly as possible. Actually look at them and say, how was your day? Or has it been a long shift? You don't even have to have a whole conversation. Ask them that. Whatever area you're uncomfortable in, just push yourself. Don't be satisfied with avoiding the things that make you uncomfortable. That's what I would say.
Right, because if you do that, your life will become increasingly uncomfortable.
It
And the
will.
more you
It
can
will.
jump over these hurdles, you're going to find such freedom and peace moving through your daily. I'm not talking about
Well,
eternal peace. I'm just talking about
yeah,
like an ease that you can move through
of course.
life.
Well, you will be increasingly debilitated because you're creating those neural pathways and you are reaffirming and strengthening those neural pathways that say this action is going to result in something bad. And when you do those things and nothing bad happens, you weaken those pathways that say something bad is going to happen, and you break them down until at some point, maybe you have a little bit of anxiety still, but you're able to do these things, right? And just functioning in society does not cripple you anymore.
Right.
You know?
So all of this that we're talking about with young people, responsibility, being active in the church, this all kind of culminates really in what your big project is now.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us about this?
Okay. So like I said, I was hosting some young adult retreats, just very casual weekend things. We'd just get together. There'd be like one lecture or something. It was just mostly fellowship. It'd be like Friday night, Saturday, Sunday. And at the end of last year, beginning of this year, I was like, I loved the St. Cosmas conference that I went to. And I just remember the whole environment being amazing and just edifying. And then, of course, for me, going to the monastery was always so influential. And I was always there with other Orthodox girls. And it was just this rhythm of church and work and just beautiful words of wisdom from the nuns. And I just wanted to do something like that. You can't recreate that, but I wanted a place where people went and they felt renewed, they felt edified, they felt inspired. And so I was like, I can have a conference. Yeah. And so I was like picking out who I wanted to speak, messaging them, here's the date, blah, blah, blah. And so by February, I had like the official vision document that I was sending to people, like, would you participate in this? Blah, blah, blah. And so I don't remember when I launched registration. I feel like it's August now. I think it was June.
That sounds about right.
June. Yeah. And I was just thinking about all of the things that have been really meaningful and influential in my life, spiritually and socially. And I wanted to bring those things together. I wanted to have an event that was not just like intellectually edifying, but spiritually inspiring, like the monastery was. And then I didn't just want it to be like you listen to lectures and, you're spiritually inspired and you're intellectually edified, but like you also have so much joy from the connections you make. Like our parish has had a lot of weddings lately. And the joy and anticipation of creating the event together. And then, of course, there's the sacrament, but then the reception, everyone just having so much joy in the event. And then one of the funnest parts is actually like the post event, where you're all just like reminiscing and cleaning up and playing music and just connecting with other people and just having joy in that, those connections, just the joy, right? Just being present in the moment, seeing people in front of you, and that mutual joy of living and thriving and celebrating with other people. So that's why I also incorporated a couple evenings, like social evenings, where we can just have joy together and meet new people and make connections and hopefully have some meaningful conversations. Like, I hope that people will meet each other and they will have some beautiful conversations while they're there and feel like they are brought deeper into the church by those connections. Which also brings in why I want to have Orthodox vendors. So I have some organizations and I have some businesses. And I think that's really wonderful to network, to support, our Orthodox community, and then also to know who's out there and what they're doing. Like you mentioned an organization and someone's like, huh? And it's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing organization doing this really awesome stuff. Like, you would probably love it. It might even be something you want to participate in. And so I have this vision for this. I don't know if I don't this very holistic environment where everything is going hand in hand. The meals we're sharing together, the people we're meeting, the businesses we're supporting, the services we're attending, the priests we're listening to speak, all of that working together in this rhythm that reflects our life in the church. So
because
that's
it's the whole person. You're talking about ministering. Excuse me. You're talking about ministering to the whole person, because you
yes,
can just go to talks and sit and
yes,
kind of intellectually engage,
yes,
but that's not what we do in church. Church is a
mm-hmm.
whole, not just whole body, but whole person experience. And
Yes,
I heard you talk about this on Mano's channel, the
mm-hmm.
study of stuff. It was a great interview. Maybe I'll link
Thank you.
that below, because I think we've talked about very different things today. But over there, you talked
Yes.
about folk dancing
Mm.
and how important that was. And you also talked more about your monastery experience, which was really
Yes.
fun to hear about. And something really struck me. I'm there. There's a monastic typicon of the church, and then there's like the cathedral rite. And sometimes people don't know that there's a cathedral rite because it's not
Mm.
often done in America, I think. And they
Mm.
think the way to have like the most robust services are the monastic typicon.
Mm-hmm.
But there's actually one for each, and I don't know the differences, so don't ask
Yeah.
me. I don't know exactly, but I do know that they exist.
Uh-huh.
And that's because we're living a different life than monastics. And it's like we both are united through our prayer and through
Mm-hmm.
our work.
Mm-hmm.
But the sisters and the fathers don't really have recreation. Very rarely they do,
Right.
but not in the same context that we do. And so
Right.
that's what you're talking about. You're talking about that other space where we're recreating together. That's actually what
Mm-hmm.
recreation is. It should recreate you. It shouldn't drain you. And folk
Yes.
dancing is a beautiful way of doing that. We did that at our wedding. Our parish that we were at, they had their own little folk dance band, and there was
Um,
enough people who now knew all the steps that they could
yeah.
help the people that didn't. And it was a beautiful way to again address the whole person of your
Yes.
social, psychological,
Mm-hmm.
spiritual, all of the
Mm-hmm.
parts of your body. So I think it's a
Mm-hmm.
really beautiful model and can easily be overlooked.
Yeah. Well, I went this young adult retreat I went to, it was international. It's called Supraj, and was called like it's spelled with an L on the end and it's Polish, and I can never quite get it because it's not Suprajol and it's not Supraj, but it's got that little bit of L on the end, so I'm saying it incorrectly. But it's an international young adult retreat gathering, and there, a couple times while we were there, we had like cultural evening. Once we had it all, just the group who was there, and then one day we went to a local village and they welcomed us and we all did it together, and we were all sharing dances from our different cultures. So I shared a dance, like I shared a contra dance, the English country folk type, and someone shared a Swedish dance, and someone shared a Polish dance, and someone shared like a Romanian dance. There was someone shared a Palestinian dance, and we were all doing this together. And those were some of my favorite memories: is us all participating together in this act of joy and music and fellowship, and you're connecting with those other people in that circle or in that line, because you together you are creating, like, every person in the dance has this role, and it's not this highly structured, like, it's not like army drilling, but you're participating in that creation, in that rhythm, in that flow, and you're a piece of the puzzle there with all those other people who are pieces of that puzzle. And I just think it has this way of bringing you together, especially if it's a dance where you switch partners every time. You're
Mm.
you're like connecting with each of those people in that way as you have joy together. And I said this to
Yeah.
me, it's dancing is not inherently romantic,
Mhm.
like it's social.
Right.
uh, and
And
I
I
think
think
it's so
too,
cool.
we've unfortunately turned the arts into something that is performative, that we sit and we watch the professionals do it. This is also
Right.
with music, of course. But as you said, this is like every village had dancing. This is just
Yes.
a really normal part of life. Even one of the
Yes.
saints, I might have it wrong, but it might be Saint Jacobos of Evia. But there was some story about, I'm pretty sure it was Saint Jacobos, but he is talking to his niece and nephew, and I think
Mm-hmm.
maybe their mother had died or something. I might have the
Mm-hmm.
saint wrong, so maybe Matushka can correct me on this if she's listening. But the child was sad because they didn't know their dance moves that they were supposed to have, and he was like, "Oh, little Maria, why do you not know this?" And she's like, "Well, my parents never had a chance to teach me." So he taught his little niece and
Oh,
nephew, these little Greek dance moves that they
oh,
hadn't, because of their extreme poverty in life, they hadn't had a
yeah.
chance to learn. Or no, it was actually her children. I think it was the niece's children. She had
Uh-huh.
never learned, and so he
Uh-huh.
taught them. Just a really
Yeah.
beautiful little moment.
Well, it's woven into the history of your country and your culture and your society and the way in which you celebrate. It's
Mhm.
woven into that. And so when you participate in that, you're participating in this long history, um, of I know I keep saying it, but of fellowship and community. And that doesn't mean, oh, you have to dance to participate in that. No, it's just, but it's like, it is
That was my
part.
next question. People can come and not dance if we don't want to scare anybody away.
Yeah,
Just come
you
and
can just
talk
sit
and
there.
watch.
And sometimes that's the participation. Sometimes,
Mhm.
because dancers, usually there's an audience too. And oftentimes watching the audience, it looks like they're having as much fun as the dancers. Because maybe that's not, I have a friend who, she does not dance, but she'll watch them and she seems to have joy from watching them. And that's how
Mhm.
some people are. And I think that's its own participation, is acknowledging what's taking place and kind of seeing the joy in other people bring you joy. Seeing the joy in other people brings you joy and you're participating in the joy.
Yeah,
So I
absolutely.
think that's also valid.
So let's make sure we say actually the name of the conference and when it is
Yes.
and all that.
Yes.
We haven't gotten to
Right.
the details.
The important details. So the name of the organization I created, it's the umbrella organization, is the Temple Steps. And the name of the conference this year, and I haven't decided if it'll be like the official conference name or if the name will change every year. You know how some
Mhm.
conferences have the theme and the theme changes every year. The name of the conference is Salt of the Earth. So just,
Great. And who are the
It's what it,
speakers that are coming?
yes. So we have Father Turbo Qualls is our keynote speaker, and he will be talking about occupation and vocation, which I
Oh,
think is
wonderful.
such a great topic for young adults,
Mm-hmm.
and how to integrate that in the life of the church. Father Justin Havens in Bulverde, originally in Salt Lake City, now in Bulverde, will be there, and he'll be talking about monasticism in marriage and how to discern which path to take, and also the blessings of a large family. He has 10 children. Father Justin Frederick will be talking about asceticism in the world, kind of what that looks like. We're not monks and nuns, but Orthodoxy is ascetical, and how does that look in the world? And then we have Dr. Mark Tarpley, who will be talking about tradition in the church, which I also think I mentioned in Manos, in Manos'
Mm-hmm.
podcast. That's a really important thing, because this next generation is going to be either holding on to traditions or letting them go. And
Yeah.
it's important that we know what they are and why we hold them.
Yeah. And I think Dr. Mark is probably not as well known, but I met him through the St. Cosmas conference.
Yeah.
He's very knowledgeable. He's going to be a really
Yeah.
great speaker. So it's a great lineup of people.
Yeah, I'm really excited. So it's October 22nd through 25th. Thursday. It starts Thursday night, and there are no formal lectures that night, because I know some people will be traveling. They'll get off work on Thursday. They won't make it Thursday. So Thursday night will be a social, a meet and greet. Maybe our vendors will have the opportunity to just say, hey, this is who I am and this is where I am. Just a little social, get to know people, and then we'll start it off on Friday morning officially with probably proclasis and lectures. And Friday night will be the young adult social and dance. Saturday we'll have some more lectures, and we'll conclude with vigil that evening. Saturday people are free to do whatever they want. And Sunday we will all celebrate Divine Liturgy together. And I'm hoping my vendors will be there through Sunday, so that after liturgy during coffee hour, the parish, the whole parish, and everyone who came can interact with the vendors more, network. Young adults can meet the people at Saint Maximus, vice versa. Just broaden your connections, your circle of friends,
Yeah, that sounds fantastic.
Important note, registration does close September 30th. And if someone is coming and they know they're coming and they have it in their budget to buy their ticket now, that is hugely helpful as far as counting and making sure that everything is in order. But registration does close September 30th. I didn't do a great job of advertising that on the front end, so I feel like I'm having to do some back end work where I'm like, guys, by the way.
That's great.
Yeah.
So we've talked about how people can help. So how can people help you spread the word about this conference? Because when you have it the first year, it's very difficult to get the word out.
It is. And the biggest, the most effective thing, I think, is if you, even if you can't come, you talk to your friends about it. And you say, there's this really cool thing. Because if my friend says, there's this event happening and it is so cool and I think we should go, or I can't go, but I think you should go, I'm going to take that much more seriously than if I just saw a flyer. And if every person who hears about it tells 2 friends, better yet 5 or 10 friends, but 2 friends, even 1 friend, that's going to do so much. If you have social media and you share it on your social media, great. But personal conversations are the most effective. So that word of mouth is so important. And then come to the event and bring some friends so that you can all get maybe a group of 4 girls gets a hotel room together and they can all split the cost, or they carpool so they can split that cost. And it just, it's more fun to go on a road trip with friends, and it helps lower your costs. And I just think it's going to be really cool to see people from all over the country there. I have someone from Idaho. I have someone from Washington. I have some people from Florida, from New Mexico. So I'm really excited about seeing so many people, people you may not have met otherwise, all come together for this event. So
I definitely called my son when I saw it. I think I saw it first on Buck's show. I don't think you didn't have a full segment, right? It was just at the end?
No, it was like an ad break. Yeah.
Yeah. So I, called my son and say, hey, this is near you. Are you, you're going to go? And I hope he bought his ticket. If not,
did.
This is your reminder. Good. Okay.
He did. Yeah.
So, yeah, I
I
think it
love
is going to
that.
be a really great.
Exactly.
So if you're a
Or
parent, let your young
yeah,
adult children know,
yeah.
like they.
Or just, anyone, even if it's not your
Mhm.
category, like tell the people in your life who are in that category to, check it out, share the information with people would be interested or might be interested or should be interested.
Yeah.
Or if you are, this is another thing I was talking to someone about. I understand expenses are expensive. Sponsor someone to go. If you believe in this event and you think people should be there, tell a young person, hey, I will pay for your ticket, or I'll pay for your hotel room or something. That's another way of blessing someone else and, supporting the event, because I can only have the event if I have people coming to the event.
Right.
So it doesn't always have to be like a $1,000 sponsorship. Maybe you just support a young person in attending. So that's another
Yeah.
way people can help.
And it's a very affordable event for how long it is.
Yeah, I think so. I've seen a lot of events with a lot of different price ranges. This
Mhm.
was kind of me doing my best to balance that and make sure that it was affordable, but also like I'm not going to get into trouble trying to have this event. So I think
Yeah.
it's a good balance. I think
It's going to
so.
be an amazing event. So,
Thank
Salt of
you.
the Earth
Yes.
conference this October.
Mm-hmm.
Registration ends September 30th,
30th. Yep.
and we'll link it all below.
Yes.
Any final thoughts of anything you would like to share?
I mean, we've covered so much ground, a
We
lot
covered
of
a
really
lot.
good topics. I just really hope that people find more joy. I hope this event, I hope maybe this conversation brings joy to someone, because I know there's a lot of dark things happening right now, and we're exposed to so much information right now, so many things we wouldn't
Mhm.
have known about before social media, before, you know, online news outlets and whatnot. And it can be really easy to lose your joy and to lose sight of the people who are in front of you. And that was something that I really, like, I was aware of it, but I became really conscious of it when I went to that retreat in Poland, is really seeing and recognizing the human being who's made in the image of Christ in front of you, you know? Um, and having joy and and doing your best every day. Like, it doesn't mean you're a saint by the end of today, but you did your best and God sees that it was your best. So I know that it's maybe a little off topic, but that's just something I hope that people think about, you
Yeah,
know
it's not off topic at all. And if we didn't do our best today, then there's repentance. So
just tomorrow.
there's joy there too. The Christian
Mm-hmm.
life is all about joy. And
What
I
did
think the
Anne Shirley
devil,
say? I think she said, "I'm so glad I live in a world where there are tomorrows," or "I'm so glad that." Oh no, I think it was, "Every day I wake up with a day that is fresh with no mistakes in it, like clean
that's right,
slate." Yeah.
right?
I'm sorry, you
It's
were
a new
saying
day.
something. I
No,
didn't.
just that the Christian life is all about joy.
Yeah.
It's a life of joy. We're not, overly focused on ourself and our own sins. It's like,
Yes.
yeah, we have sins, but Christ is risen, and
Yes.
that's the joy. So embrace the
Absolutely.
joy. Don't let
Yes,
the
and
devil
don't
in the world steal it.
yeah, and don't let your own worries cloud sight of the person in front of you.
Yeah.
So,
Well, thank you so much for being here, Thea. It's been a
thank
real
you,
pleasure to
Christina.
chat with you.
This was delightful. It was such an honor to be on your podcast and have this conversation. And I appreciate you reaching out to me.
Yeah, I think we should do it again sometime.
I think so too.
Maybe we'll recap after the conference and,
Yeah,
and
there we
find
go.
something
There we
else we
go.
can
We
talk
can go
about.
highlights.
Yeah. All right.
Sounds perfect.
Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
Alleluia, Alleluia.